0.7% here, a loss of 37 points or so. Apple shares are just getting hammered.
In 2008, during the Great Recession, a new generation emerged, ready to help rebuild the economy with a drive for success. They are known as the millennials. 13 years later, the newest generation, Gen Z, is entering their 20s, facing a pandemic, social media, a political divide, and a potential start to a new recession. With society around them changing, they're making their own corporate customs, with high turnover rates and changing company culture. Media has labeled this the Great Resignation.
So the Great Resignation, I think we're still trying to figure out what that means, but it's kind of this pattern of people either quitting their jobs or just refusing to go back to work, alongside this larger gap in unemployment. And I think part of that is because of the coronavirus pandemic, but also a larger disagreement with the way things are being run.
3.6 million Americans quit their jobs, and that's down from the month before, with almost 4 million walking out the door in April.
This idea of a jobs shortage is not just people leaving their jobs. It's also the fact that over 700,000 people died. And many of those people were those essential workers in these jobs that you're trying to fill.
I don't think they should even prioritize catering. It shouldn't be like, oh, I have to cater to this generation. It should be like, I should recognize these people. Like, you're not just an employee, you're a person. If they don't do that, if they don't take that approach, I feel like, yeah, they're gonna continue to struggle finding people to employ.
But I really think it's a reframing of what the job market's going to look like in the future and how the future generation is going to solve the emerging problems that we see, not on a local scale, but on a global scale.
Your generation and my generation, because we're within that 2008 context too, have said our bosses don't care that much about us. And I think that the pandemic put into sharp relief that they literally don't care about you. In fact, they're willing to sacrifice your life and your health and safety in order to keep things going. Whereas before, we knew that was possible, but we haven't seen it in such a way as we did in the pandemic. I think that it's been rumbling for a while, but the coronavirus has really just made it just so visible that we can't unsee it anymore. Not only do we have the 2008 financial crisis, we also had, for a brief moment in time, the Occupy movement. Right? Where people were actually taking into account the reasons why economic instability was happening and saying we need to do something about it. And I think that resistance still exists, not just as Occupy, but as Black Lives Matter, as Me Too, as the women's rights movement. I think there's this overall the status quo is so unsustainable that we need something else, and these are all aspects of it. And so I think that the Great Resignation is saying, almost as if we tried to do all the things the traditional way, but maybe the best thing we can do is just quit.